After the defeat of Dr. Wily by MegaMan, the first robot war had ended, returning the Earth to a state of peace. However, Wily was never captured, and for the next year he plotted in the shadows, creating his own robot masters to fulfill his revenge. And in 1 year, 8 new robot masters would arrive, but this time created strictly for combat. Blood would be spilled as they began to ravage the planet. However, just as before, the super fighting robot, MegaMan, would arrive to combat these new foes. Will MegaMan be able to defeat these new robot masters, or was this a plan to lure MegaMan into a deeper trap to fulfill Dr. Wily's revenge? MegaMan returns, but he almost didn't. You see, in 1989, it was a big year for the NES. The year before had Super Mario Bros. 3 released, and it pretty much owned all the side-scrollers on the system. That genre was popular before, then it was at its hottest now. But future titles will have big shoes to fill, which is kind of obvious when your competition is Mario 3. MegaMan, however, wasn't going to be a competitor at all, at least if it was up to Capcom's corporate side. You see, the first MegaMan game was not a breakout franchise from the get-go. It had low sales compared to what Capcom wanted, and thus it was going to be a one and done. However, it was thanks to MegaMan's original developers, including Akira Kitamura and Keiji Inafune, that pushed to greenlight the project. Now, I talked about Keiji Inafune before, but I did not talk about Akira Kitamura, and that was a mistake on my end. He is just as important as Inafune, as he is the one who came with the concept of MegaMan, inspired by all those older anime and tokusatsu series, and Inafune helped him complete his design. Both of these developers and the rest of the team be able to work on MegaMan 2, but only on their free time while developing other games. They had to make this game in 3 months. And I know development on games were a lot shorter back then, but that's still a tight time frame. But by some miracle, they did it, and MegaMan 2 came out to a roaring success. Capcom just had a lot of luck when it came to the number 2 back then. Oh, not that number 2. But MegaMan 2 was one of the best-selling games for Capcom that year, along with DuckTales, another Capcom classic, and Disney classic, I guess, too. MegaMan 2 saved the franchise, but was it because it was the best MegaMan game, which at its release it definitely was, or was it just the hype? Hi, I'm Jay, and you're tuning into the J Blast Network as we take a blast at the past, top Wily's revenge, and kick some Robot Master ass in MegaMan 2. MegaMan 2 plays nearly exactly like the first game, and that's not a bad thing. You still pick a Robot Master, play through their stage, and steal their power, and use it against other Robot Masters. But now, instead of 6 Robot Masters, there are 8, which would become a staple of the series going forward. So who we taking down first? Well, of course, it's gotta be Metal Man, who resides in this mechanical factory. Gameplay is pretty much the same as the last game. The running, jumping, and shooting all feel the same as before, though for some reason it felt a little improved to me, like the game played a little smoother. That same challenge is there too, with having to navigate the conveyor belts while dealing with obstacles like the spike slammers and these clowns on the wheel. They seem tough, but patience here is the key. This is actually the easiest level in the game, and as you are about to see, it's also the easiest boss in the game. Okay, maybe not the easiest one. Metal Man is kind of a jobber. I mean, you don't even have to worry about his pattern much if you just keep shooting. I mean, he's just chunking these metal blades at you, but it does nothing, and he's dead. Alright, now we get to the real reason why you fight Metal Man first, and that's because of his weapon, the Metal Blade, aka the best weapon in the game. Not only is it powerful, not only does it barely use weapon energy, but it can also shoot in all 8 directions, making it surpass almost every weapon in the game. Now, some people may get on this game for that and talk about how it's useless to use other weapons, but I have to disagree. You see, the reason why I got the Metal Blade first is because of what is to come for the rest of the game. MegaMan 2 is a tough game, just like the first one. Now, it's got less BS than the first game, but it still can be hard, and you're gonna need all of MegaMan's abilities if you want to survive and keep your sanity, because you will see the shit they throw at you at times is completely asinine. Now we're going by my order, so I usually go to Woodman next. Now the platforming in his stage isn't that crazy, but he's home to some major mini bosses. In this case being this giant dog that you have to fight 3 times with 3 different setups. The dog looks intimidating. The pattern of dodging the fire breath isn't that difficult, and the real difficulty comes from the locations they put you in. That's kind of what Mega Man excels at, making you repeat the same thing, except we're gonna do something slightly different that makes it harder. Usually do it 3 times in a row. By the 3rd time, you've pretty much mastered what you have to dodge. It's just having to deal with it in a new scenario. Then you get on these trees where you fight these monkeys and these robot birds dropping their babies on you. Remember these for later. Now something else I want to point out here are these Roadrunner chickens. You see, near the end of the stage, you may have noticed that the Metal Blade bounces off these guys. And that's the thing. Yeah, the Metal Blade can kill a lot of things in the game. It's pretty powerful. But when it can't, it literally just cannot kill. And there are obstacles that the blade can just bounce off of. It's not OP as we thought, huh? Now, to Woodman himself, he has a simple pattern. He sends leaves up and can't be hit while his shield is up. He'll then throw his shield as the leaf goes down. That's the thing you want to focus on, dodging more, because he has a big hitbox and you're gonna have to jump high over it. But if you get over it, then you can kill him easy. Woodman gives you the leaf shield, which can defend you until you move, then it'll go into the direction you move it in. It's one of the first of many shield weapons that come in Mega Man, and in retrospect, it's one of the weaker ones. I just wish it had a limited amount of time and it could stay while you move, because outside of some instances, I don't really find myself using it for defense. Now the next one I take down is Flashman, who resides in this icy base of sorts. The big obstacles here are the slippery platforms and the Joes. One of the more annoying enemy types in the game, because all they do is sit behind their stupid shields and wait to shoot, taking forever just to get a shot in. Some will also ride in giant armor, which the Metal Blade also can't penetrate. You have to jump high to hit them. The stage is also split with its elevation, and while you can't beat the entire level elevated, it does help you get past some of the tougher obstacles in the stage. Now there's a reason why Flashman has these tough enemies in this stage, and that's because Flashman is kind of a jobber. I mean, his power seems dangerous because he can freeze you at any point, but that Metal Blade just decimates him in seconds. And just like his name, he's gone in a flash. His weapon is the Time Stopper, which allows you to freeze time until your weapon energy runs out, and only when your weapon energy runs out. You have to commit to it all the way and cannot switch until it's gone, though I guess it's fine because it freezes everything, even moving platforms. Then you go to Bubble Man, where his stage is cooler than the boss fight. I mean, we get to hop through waterfalls and swim or walk in the ocean and fight giant fish as a mini boss. The spikes here will mess you up though, but it always allows you to understand how to control your movement when underwater, even if the spaces are very tight. Bubble Man himself though, he's dead, just like that. Now it seems like I'm breezing through the game, and the Metal Blade is helping with that, trust me, but also trust me that it gets a lot harder from here. Now up until this point, I've gone to stages that have let you get away with the sloppy play, but the next levels are why Mega Man 2 can be difficult. Now when I hear about discussion of this game, a lot of people bring up the weapon balance and the Metal Blade is just too overpowered. Well, I want to make an argument as to why the game had to be this way, and why the other weapons in the game are worth it. Let's look at the next level, Airman's level, whose stage takes place in the sky, across these floating demon head robots with spikes coming out of their ends, where you're supposed to jump on and off of their edges where the spikes come out. While this is happening, there will be enemies like those birds from before that will attack you while you're trying to jump, which can lead to your death by either falling or running out of help. Then there are these cloud guys you need to kill before jumping on their clouds, which also move around. And if that wasn't enough, Airman himself is a pretty difficult fight. His air tornadoes can be hard to dodge as they take up most of the screen and push you back, and it takes a lot of damage if you get hit by him. Even with his weakness Leaf Shield, you'll need to time it right or he'll be blown away when he spawns his tornadoes. I mean, Airman is so hard that he even had a song named after him titled I Can't Beat Airman. Now hold on, bro. You ain't Goku. You better get over yourself. And see, that's where having the weapons comes in handy, because you see, the game sets up these challenges that if you have no weapons, it's going to be a hard time. But even if you have the weapons, it still can be a tough time. But at least you have more tools to handle these situations, like having the Metal Blade take out the cloud guys or having a Leaf Shield to end Airman as quick as possible. And yes, I know you can use the Buster Only, every level can use Buster Only, but using the weapons makes beating the levels much more efficient. efficient, and that's just the fun of playing Mega Man, getting all the weapons. You get the air shooter from beating Airman, which shoots 3 tornadoes upward right in front of you, which may seem useless compared to Metal Blade, but walk with me for a bit as we head to the next Robot Masters. You see, you head to the next Robot Master, Crash Man, whose level is all about elevation, as one big climb to the boss, and on the way there will be these infinitely spawning enemies that keep knocking you down, whether it's these little blue tin cans or these freaking birds again. Something is always going to be there to knock you down, whether you climb a ladder or have to wait on a little conveyor belt. You will always be at the mercy of these little enemies, as the Mega Buster cannot shoot in all directions, but when you have the Metal Blade, you're able to take care of these pests flying around, or you can use Flashman's weapon to freeze time. In the latter portion of the stage, you can climb up the ladder, or you can use the air shooter to take out some airborne enemies. See, came in handy at this point. You see, stuff comes back to help you. These weapons that you have to earn are helping you tackle these platforming sections. The game is made around you having these weapons, and thus using them feels like second nature, like you should have it by now. And I know people talk about Mega Man having choice, and any of these levels can be your first level, and yes, you can do it Buster only, but it's a lot more inconvenient when you do, and it's made to be that way when you do. When you don't have the other weapons to prepare for the stage, it just becomes frustrating. I mean, you're just working harder, not smarter at that point. Like, look, because I went through Airman's stage and got his weapon, I can beat Crash Man in a matter of seconds. It's a reward for beating the other levels first. And yeah, I got this far in the game already with other powers. And yes, I know the Metal Blade can outclass all of these weapons in many areas, but it's not the only solution to every problem, especially when you have enemies that can just, block it. You need to use other weapons, and sometimes you can only use them for traversal, like the Crash Bomb, which can blast through certain walls on a stage. Now, most of these are just rooms for extra lives or energy, but sometimes it leads to a new path. See, that's something that the Metal Blade just could not do. Now, the second set of difficulty is pure platforming and the obstacles it brings outside of the enemies, and these last 2 levels really emphasize that. Quickman being notorious for this, with his base containing these hyperspeed lasers that you will need to... These hyperspeed lasers that...
No, I got dead again. This game stinks.
Alright, I had enough. You're going to have to be pixel perfect to get out of this. And see, this section can be mitigated by using the time stopper, but if you do that, you're going to need the weapon energy to fight Quickman, whose weakness is the time stop. I mean, it won't kill him, but it takes down a significant portion of his health. So you have to choose whether you want to use time stop now and have to get weapon energy for it, or just ignore it, or you want to save it for later and fight him with it. Oh, and by the way, Quickman just ignores the Metal Blade, so it's pretty much no help. Beating him gives you the quick boomerang, which tosses out a fast boomerang. If the Metal Blade doesn't work, 9 times out of 10, this will, but it only throws at an angle, so you have to be close. And now we've reached the last Robot Master, Heat Man, and you'll see why I saved him for last quickly, as the lava isn't even the main obstacle. It's really these disappearing blocks that appear over these large chasms that none of your weapons can really help you avoid. This is where the items come in, which were actually added because playtesters got frustrated with sections like this in the game. If you go in my order, you should have item 2 and 3 by now. For now, let's go over item 2, which gives you the flying platform with its own weapon energy. Saving this for the disappearing block section will allow you to skip past them, but only if you keep your weapon energy up. You can't fly over the whole stage. Now, you might be wondering if this is broken or not, but see, this item in particular is only given by beating Airman stage, the sky stage, meaning you have to overcome the sky stage before getting the item that can fly you over obstacles in pits of death, meaning that this skip was something earned again from just playing the game. And that's why Mega Man 2 is so satisfying when using its items and weapons, because each one, yes, even the bubble lead, which I didn't even mention until now, rewards you later on in a different stage or a boss fight, with the bubble lead finally being useful here as it's the weakness for Heat Man, though he's already an easy fight with a simple pattern, shooting flames and flame dashing into you. Now, this logic applies to all Mega Man games, but 2 really set an example to excel in this, and that's what I want to bring across with my points here. Mega Man 2 is able to balance his weapons with its level design, while leaving room for players to pick each level as their first. If you want to take the harder route, you can. If you want to take the easy route, you can, but whichever way you take, the weapons you earn and the items you earn will help you at an increased rate, and this will be the ultimate foundation that Mega Man 2 laid, even with the Metal Blade, which honestly was not as OP as the Elect Beam, which which could literally be glitched to insta-kill enemies. In fact, Mega Man 2 just excels at giving good scenarios for all of his weapons compared to Mega Man 1, and that all culminates in the Wily Castle. By the way, if you notice, my Robot Master order is not even by weakness, it's rather the order of the Mega Man 2 rap by Dwayne and Brando. I'll go into detail on why it is in the last section of the video, so yeah, stay tuned. Damn, they don't even give you a revisit this time. Probably because there's nothing worth revisiting a stage for, but you get thrown right into the castle. And if you thought the first game castle was hard, you ain't seen nothing yet. You see, because Wily decided to beef up his defenses by tenfold, right as we get into the castle area, it looks like something out of Saving Private Ryan as we run through the first obstacle that requires your other powers. Now I can talk about items 1 and 3. Item 1 gives you a platform that elevates you to a higher platform, and item 3 is strictly for climbing walls. Now, it may seem to serve the same function, but item 3 cannot work unless you're near a wall, while item 1 can be used anywhere in the air, and boy, do they make you use this. Like this section here with this tight ass jump where you need to use item 1 strategically in order to reach the tip of the ladder hanging off the side of the castle. Now who the hell is going to be able to use that practically, Wily? Now reaching the top of that will lead to another major obstacle, and at first you were thinking it's just these small ass platforms in the void, but then,
Oh shit!
Wily does not play around when it comes to having a gatekeeper. The Mecha Dragon looks scary, and him chasing you down on these thin ass platforms is the most frightening shit ever. When I first played this shit, I was losing my mind and I kept falling off and dying because he's just right there. It's kind of scary. He's just big and taking all that space. I thought he was gonna touch me and I was gonna explode. And while he's not Yellow Devil difficult, he still can be very difficult, and I think a lot of it comes from the intimidation. I came up with my own solution though to beat him, and that's freezing him after getting on the highest platform when he starts chasing you, and then throwing the quick boomerang at his head and praying to not get blown off the platform. And if you're lucky, you'll make it out. Now while the later bosses are nowhere near as stressful as the Mecha Dragon, the level design on the other hand is. As you get deeper into the castle, you'll face tight ass spike falls, spike crevices, and fake platforms that lead you into, you guessed it, spikes. All the level elements that you have faced in the previous levels are brought back here except made more severe, like the conveyor platforms from Crashman level. I managed to use most of my weapons in some way though, whether it was using Airman's weapon to get above ladder enemies and taking out little fodder with the metal blade, or using quick boomerang on enemies with shields. I won't lie, some of these weapons I barely used, the Leaf Shield or the Atomic Fire, which was Heatman's weapon. But it's not like the last game didn't have situational weapons either, but I think most of 2's weapons are useful. Now on to the bosses. One of them is this cube thing that keeps transforming. This is the only boss where the metal blade will actually work in this castle, but he's not much of a challenge. Then there's the Gutsman tank, which is the beginning of Wily showing his weird obsession for Gutsman, a robot he didn't even design, by the way. Use a quick boomerang after hopping on him and you'll be alright. Now up until now, the Mecha Dragon really was the strongest boss, and I mean the guy played the role of a gatekeeper, but really those other 2 guys were the gatekeepers. The Mecha Dragon was the main event, but this next boss is a little different. So in the last game there was a section where you needed the magnet beam in order to get out of this room, and if you didn't have it, you'd have to die and build up weapon energy before reaching that room. Well, someone thought that was cool because the type of room came back. Well, actually, apparently this boss wasn't supposed to be designed like this, as according to Akira Kitamura, this was supposed to be an entirely different puzzle, but just didn't make it into the game. Now, in this section, you're gonna need Crashman's weapon, and only Crashman's weapon, to break these walls and defeat these enemies. If you run out of energy at any time, you're gonna have to die and grind enemies to get the weapon energy back. However, the enemies you need to grind for this weapon energy are the Joes. You know, the guys with the shields you gotta take out before killing them. The quick boomerang can take care of them, but farming an enemy like this is just not fun. And it makes me miss those birds, which is never a good thing. I can't really defend this. This was just a bad room that was put deep into the castle. It's not even hard. You just have to find a way to not use all your crash bomb energy, but you will still use a majority of it. And I know there's a way to get around that and not use all your energy, but most people are just gonna get trapped here. I mean, you run out of energy before you kill all these robot things, you're pretty much dead. It's just too late to pull out traps like this, man. It's not even NES difficulty. This is just bullshit. And now we've reached the gauntlet. Like the last game, you have to fight all the bosses over again, but you should be good after taking on the castle. Also, this is the first time I had to use Atomic Heat and the only time I used it. And then you fight Wily, who is the only other boss in this damn castle that can be defeated by the Metal Blade. He has a simple pattern with dodging the orbs that come out, but they do hella damage and have a large hitbox. So if you can't dodge it, it becomes an endurance match, but an endurance match that you can win. That seemed a little too easy though for a final boss. And well, that's because it ain't, because there is one more area. You see, in the deep cave under the castle, you see drops of blood coming out of the ceiling, as if you were in a horror movie. There's no music, just blood dropping that can damage you. And then you enter a dark room with Wily and... Whoa, dude's an alien? I never expected that. So was he just trying to use Earth's technology to take over the planet for his alien overlords? I don't know, but this ET is gonna have to phone home, because MegaMan ain't the one to play with. Alien Wily is fast and does some massive damage if you get hit by him. Only one of your extra weapons do damage to him, and it's the bubble leg. Now I know y'all are about to say how stupid this is, but let me cook for a minute. This weapon has the worst range out of all the weapons, and it's been pretty much useless throughout the entire game except for Heatman's fight. But now in the final battle, it becomes your greatest asset. You see, because you need to get so close, it also puts you in a position to be shot at by Wily, meaning you have to plan out your bubble lead shots one by one until you kill him. Any other weapon could be used from a safe distance, but the bubble lead puts you right into the action and makes a virtually useless weapon outside of one boss the most useful weapon and the final boss. And it also kind of makes sense because in some movies, usually an alien's weakness are things that are normal to us on Earth, like water or germs. So yeah, this is actually pretty genius. Now if you survive Wily's onslaught, it is then revealed that this was just a hologram being controlled by Wily. So I guess the reason why the bubble lead was his weakness was because it was a machine and it couldn't get water damage. Which means the bubble lead is also great because it plays a narrative role into the story because it foreshadowed the true identity of Wily, who was Dr. Wily. And MegaMan lets him go again and begins his walk back home. And I don't know if it's a changing of season or the passage of time, but something seems more somber about this scene. But it's actually supposed to be a more hopeful ending, as the changing of seasons is supposed to represent peace returning to the Earth after a long battle. I know MegaMan may look small and cute, but these games are wars using weapons made by mankind being waged. I mean, imagine if we were able to make nuclear energy into like a robot and they fought each other. That'd be pretty scary, wouldn't it? When you look at it like that, you can appreciate the peace achieved by our actions and finally rest. Mega Man's 2 impact cannot be understated. Not only was it the real foundation for how platform Mega Man games were set up to be, but it also saved the series. Mega Man would become a flagship title thanks to the sales and the cultural impact of the game. I mean, I didn't mention it much, but the soundtrack of the game inspired many musicians with its rock and roll vibes. I mean, I did mention Airman's theme, but Metal Man's theme, Bubble Man's theme, and Wily Castle 1 are some of my favorites from this game, though you probably heard this from other channels. So what does Mega Man 2 actually mean to me? Well, Mega Man 2 was how I got into Mega Man back in the day. I had only played glimpses of the series and heard from YouTube how Mega Man 2 was the best in the series. Now, do I think this is the best in the series? No. It's a great foundation on top of the first game's foundation, but being a good foundation means that you can expand from that, and the series definitely expanded from that. But back to my story. After hearing so much praise about the game, I finally got to play it fully on an iPhone. Yes, an iPhone. Every strat I showed you was done on an iPhone at first. And this was like the old iPhone when most games that were ported like this really suck. So when I say I know this game, I mean I know this game because I played it on the worst control scheme possible. I learned the order to go from the Mega Man 2 rap after Wayne and Brando, which I stated earlier was a parody back then, and they were pretty big back then with different songs for old video games. Part of the older YouTube crowd. I know I'm a boomer, but I accept it. And it turns out their song was actually a really good guide to the game. Now you gotta understand, by the time I was really getting the Mega Man, I couldn't find the original collection in regular stores. And it wasn't until I got the new collection that I could play the original NES series fully. And after that, I've come to find out that the series gets better and better as it goes along. But isn't that a good thing? I think Mega Man 2 gets so much praise because it kicked off the main formula, which is kind of how things are. The one that kickstarted it is the one that succeeds. But it was also new at the time. You know, it's not as memorable when you were in year 7 of game 6 doing nearly the same type of gameplay from the first sequel. It's hard to show up and make a stance that way, right? And over the years, many people in my generation early have come to realize that the overpraise of this game may not have been worth it for what it actually was, especially considering the later games in the series. And while I will agree that this isn't the best Mega Man game, I don't think that makes Mega Man 2 lose any merit. I mean, it's still an incredible experience that stands out amongst its NES contemporaries, at least in 1989. Now, I want to address something on the channel before I go. On my last Mega Man video, I had a lot of comments roasting me about the title of the video. You know, the one about NES games can't compete. But I want to clarify something. That video was about not many NES games at the time in 1987 not having the quality of Mega Man. I was trying to make a point of how Mega Man 1 stood out on the system. Now, I play a lot of NES games, and I'm probably one of the only people my age range that actually will give a damn about some NES games, not just call it old or say it aged poorly and write it off like that because I can't play the game, or I don't know how to play the game, or I suck at the game. So, you know, I give games a chance. There are also other games on the NES that I love, like Ninja Gaiden, Dragon Warrior, DuckTales, Batman, Return of the Joker, Castlevania, The Legend of Valkyrie, Nintendo first-party titles, and the list goes on and on. In a console retrospective, whenever that comes out, I'll go into more detail on those games. However, the thing is, even with those games, I will always have Mega Man at the top. Now, is Mega Man 1 the best NES game? No, but the Mega Man style in its later games would take that title, or would make me give that title to it. But from the library perspective, it's something that not a lot of games that came out then can say. It had its own take on the side-scroller gameplay loop that wouldn't be replicated, and that's mostly thanks to the talent at Capcom, which were dropping bangers on that system. I guess what I'm trying to say is, relax. I wasn't saying it beats everything on the NES. It beat a lot of it, and that's kind of the same for Mega Man 2. It's not the best Mega Man game, but it sure did beat most of its competition back then, and that's why it's remembered for what it was, and its fun gameplay and creative weapons and unique designs that would end up being a standard for Mega Man games going forward. This has been the J Blast Network, guys. Thanks for watching, and now I'm signing out. Don't forget, you better believe, baby. Yeah.